Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
All right, we will be starting the Tree Advisory Committee meeting for April 10th, 2025 at 4:05. Calling it to order. All right, first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was on March 13th.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes from March 13th are approved. There is no one in attendance for public appearances. Does anybody, so the next item is the agenda for today. Are there any recommendations to move anything in the order of the agenda at all? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the agenda for today is approved. First item on the agenda is Arbor Day events.
Yay! Best day of the year.
Yeah.
So Arbor Day is traditionally the last Friday in April, and so that's April 25th. So we are doing, and I will add, Earth Day is Tuesday the 22nd of April, so we are doing 3 different things tree-related that week. On the 22nd in Chicory Meadows, and the volunteers want to do it at 10 in the morning, which I know is probably not convenient for a lot of folks, but it's kind of an ongoing project. But at 10 in the morning on Tuesday the 22nd at Chicory Meadows, we will be planting trees. That's part of the Million Trees grant. But that's the normal time that volunteer group meets, so it's kind of folding in with their typical work. So that's probably going to stretch out. We're not going to probably get all those trees planted on that Tuesday, so that'll stretch out throughout the week. But I think we've got 18 trees going to Chicory Meadows.
What time?
10. And Lynn Neighbor is the contact for that. Or you can ask me if you have any questions. So that's the kind of our Earth Day event. And then on Saturday, the day after Arbor Day, we are doing 2 different tree planting events. At 9 to 11, we'll be planting some trees in the dog park. The dog park advocates would like to have a little bit more screening and a little bit more of a woodsy feel between the dog park and Fish Hatchery Road. So we're going to be planting some trees kind of along that fence line and kind of in that curly willow area. And it's kind of interesting, we do have some volunteer walnuts and some volunteer black cherry in there, so we're kind of working with that and trying to get that kind of reforested in there. So that will be from 9 to 11 on Saturday, and then from 10 to noon, we will be doing with the Urban Tree Alliance the canopy renovation of Hugo Jamestown Park. And we have, I think it's 27 trees going into Hugo Jamestown, which is probably more than we will get done on that Saturday, which is fine. Urban Tree Alliance will finish whatever we don't get done on Monday. So the idea is to really get some canopy back in Hugo Jamestown, and because we took out, I can't remember because I like to forget how many ash trees we took out of that park, but it was a lot. So we're finally getting them replaced, and I kind of hate to say this out loud, but that's all funded federally through that Inflation Reduction money, and I think it must have been far enough along before all the recent changes have taken place. So let's move forward. And I'm not going to say too much about it, but that's that whole. So we're getting, so we are getting our canopy renovation in Hugo Jamestown Park. So if you're interested to come, that would be awesome. I would really, appreciate it. And it would be great if there could be a point person at Hugo Jamestown in the case that I'm late getting there from the dog park. But so if anyone wants to kind of do that.
I believe I can come to that.
Okay. And we can talk more offline.
But the more the better.
It's in District 1, right?
It is.
Okay.
It's Dave
I'm gonna
Herbst.
invite the District 1 alders.
Yeah, so that's Dave, and who's the other one?
Joe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to do that.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm sure Dave knows about it because we've talked about this at Park Commission.
Yeah, and the dog park, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if the dog park is District 3 or 4, but I'll look that up and make sure the alders know about.
And I don't know either. That's a good.
It's like right on that.
It is.
I know the other side of it is my district. I think it's District 4.
It could be.
Let's pretend I know.
Yeah. And then I'll also just mention that these are not, this is happening in May, but we also have, which is really cool, we had kind of in the same vein as Arbor Day, Earth Day, we did, and I'm very impressed with this, to be honest, we did have the opportunity through Ripple Effects Plant Dane to order native plants and for free for our parks. So so I said, well, what the heck, I'll put in for McGaw, we put in for Chicory Meadows, and we put in for Wildwood South. But the trick is you have to have people who are willing to donate $12 a plant set. So to get to your, I think it's, I want to say 80 plants in Wildwood, 100 in McGaw, and 100 in Chicory or something like that. So you need, a variety of people to volunteer to, or I guess to donate money for those plants. I mean, they're free to the city, but they're not free in general. So we put up signs, and all of those projects got fully funded.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll get all those free plants, which is awesome. So we're
Put up signs where?
we put them up in McGaw Park, and we put them up in Chicory, and we put them up in Wildwood South.
That's awesome.
And it didn't take long at all. Because you can watch it on the Plant Dane website, and I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just like you can see it go 20%, 25, 30, like it was like an auction. It just kept going up. So I was like, well, that's cool. So so that was great. So those plants are coming in May, and we usually do an Earth Day event with volunteers from the DNR, but instead of doing that this year, we're gonna plant those plants with them in May after those plants come. And in addition to that, Sue, who's awesome, our Park Commission chair, she put in for the Monarch Wayside recognition for, I want to say 4 of our parks. It could have been 5. It was Wildwood South, Chicory, McGaw, and maybe Wildwood. I can't remember. I should know this, but anyway. And then there's free plants available through that program, and she got those plants too. So we've got quite a few plants to plant with the DNR volunteers, which is awesome. So if you're wondering, why we're not working with DNR this year, it's because we're just doing something with them in May. That's just better timing with getting these free plants instead of doing something on it. So at any rate, that's kind of the long story longer with Arbor Day events, hoping to get a lot of people out, hoping for good weather. We're going to be planting, the dog park trees are paid for by the Million Trees Grant, as is the Chicory Meadows trees, and then the Hugo Jamestown trees are paid for with that federal money. So it's all, volunteer driven and grant driven, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of a nice kind of cherry on top of, getting more canopy in the city. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns about Earth Day, Arbor Day, or need more information? I did make a flyer. It's not that good, but it's okay.
I think it's nice.
Oh, thanks. Okay, it suffices. Because I had to have permission from the people in the picture, so anyway, that's how it goes. And actually, that picture is us planting those trees on Post Road, and those trees all survived. I was so pleased. Anyway, so that's the long story longer with, I guess I could move our.
What are they now, just 1 year old? From planting?
I think they'll be 3 this year. Because we did that when Emily was here, and she was here 2 years ago. Yeah, so it'll be 3 years this year. I know, time flies. But yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with that whole thing.
Do you have a target date in May, or do you just need to wait till
It's 23rd. It's May 23rd, Friday, May 23rd. So we'll have hopefully, I think the pollinator plants that Sue got will be here. I know that the Ripple Effects plants will be here. So that's kind of that whole situation. And if anyone, needs more information, let me know. Anyone has anything special they wanna do as part of Arbor Day, we can accommodate that.
We're not doing anything here at
City Hall.
City Hall.
Not this
last
year.
Okay.
No, not this year. We'll do I should back up. We'll do the proclamation, and I should have said this. The proclamation will be on, is it the 22nd, right? April 22nd? Let me double check that, so everyone's got that information. It should be, small, yes, it should be, on the 22nd, which is Tuesday, that council meeting should be our Arbor Day proclamation,
At what time?
7:30. So we might wanna be at the
It
council.
might be at the new time, we just passed a resolution to make it 6:30.
Yes, that's actually so much
Our
nicer.
last meeting didn't finish until midnight, so.
A little after, I think, actually.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, that's,
So it's starting 6:30
6:30
PM.
yeah,
6:30.
Thank
I think
you.
it takes effect right away. I'll double check.
yeah, thank you for that update, yes. Good, thank you, I
Yeah,
appreciate
we
that.
have to keep telling residents, cause I don't want someone to show up late. It'll take a second, but
Yeah.
all common council meetings, I think from the next meeting forward, cause we have enough time for notice, we'll start at 6:30 PM.
That's actually a good move.
I hope so. I hope it doesn't keep anybody and it's more inclusive if anything.
You would
Seems
hope.
like it would be better.
Yeah.
The more and more meetings, it seems like other agencies have moved them up
Yeah,
to that time.
Yeah, Park Commission moved up to 6 for that same, I think, reason,
yeah,
that's a good move.
yeah, we might have to move one of the other committees, but either way, I think common council for constituents and everything, it might be better.
I agree, that's awesome, good, okay, thank you for
So
that.
it'd be great to have as many people as,
Yes.
as,
And we do it right at the beginning, so you don't have to stay for the whole meeting,
yeah,
Yeah,
except the ones with
unless you really want to.
two jobs at one.
and I can send out a reminder so folks know about it.
That would be great.
All right,
Okay, All right.
next item.
next item, the Kyle Steger Greenway update, and I know you've had a meeting with
Yep.
some of the people involved, so.
Yeah, I did, out there on site. And basically we went through what trees are there and kind of talked about potential footprint for the prairie and kind of what it's gonna take to, grow different things there and that kind of stuff. So they are having someone do their site plan, a consultant, and they are coming here in May to talk to everybody about that process and where they're kind of at with it and what their kind of expectations is. I think we all kind of have the same goals. It's just a matter of getting it all kind of organized and move forward in a concise way. I did email the person who's doing the site plan and just say like, hey, would love to meet you out there and just talk about, some of the trees and what it would take to keep some of them on site and this sort of thing. And she said, sure, yep, that'd be great. And then, but we just haven't been able to find a time to get out there. So
Is this the same person? This is not the same person who drew up
It's not the
design,
student.
right?
It's not the student. It's actually a professional landscape architect that has actually
That's
a
great.
stamp who can actually stamp plans.
And she's been, you guys still have to find time, but she's been responsive.
She's awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is good. So I'm super confident that we can move things forward. And I kind of felt good that, I put paint on trees and then people put green ribbon on trees and I was like, I think they want us to keep these trees, which is great. So it's just a kind of a matter, I think, of working everything out and figuring out, the other part of it is, because of that infrastructure, that MMSD infrastructure, I'm not sure what is going where, and that's a big question mark. And actually, in my mind, maybe other people are more confident with it because, and just to back up, I mean, if you think about that site, it's an outlot and it's highly disturbed, right? The railroad went through there and that all got regraded, and then there's that MMSD infrastructure that's really deep. So, putting that in was a lot of earth moving around. There's a road cut there that's, obviously fill. So there's just a challenge there with a lot of vegetation-wise. It'll be a challenge to get anything to go there that's not, it's going to take a lot of management. And I basically told them that. I'm like, this really, I said, what you want to do here really depends on your budget. And because, if you do want to have an awesome prairie here, that's possible. However, between the walnut and, the soil issues and all these things, it's just going to take a lot of resources. And the city doesn't have it. Like, this is not something that we can really put resources towards. And I think they appreciate that and they kind of understand where we're coming from. So
That's good.
So it's the installation budget, but it's also the maintenance budget.
well, and I said, and the crux is the maintenance. You know, I mean, you can buy a seed mix and throw it on the ground, and that's great, as some of you know, but that's the very tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And you know, and if you look at what's growing there, you can. It's highly. It not only is it a highly modified site that's got a lot of invasives and a lot of weeds there. If you look at what's growing there, it's all stuff that grows under black walnuts. It's all juglone. So there's clearly a lot of juglone in that soil. So it's like you have to kind of keep that in mind, and if, which I think that they'll do. So it's not going to be. Anyway, so I'm very confident about it. I think it'll be a good project. You know, in the end, we just have to kind of work through the site plan and work through the process and kind of go from there.
And the site plan will have all of the existing trees on it, is that correct?
I said that, and then someone said, well, you know, I don't know if we need that. And I'm like, we kind of do. We do.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. We just need to shoot the trees, and so
Right.
it's not that hard. And you know, we went through and identified everything, and I was like, well, this is this, and I think there just wasn't. I don't think that people had done that in the past. Like just, you know, it's just to bring awareness to hey, this black walnut, you know, mulberry, you know, box elder. There's sambuca. There's elderberry in there, which I think we'd want to keep. There's yeah, it's just there's all kinds of interesting things in there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. I think we can work it out where it's a nice amenity to the bike path, and we still can maintain as many trees as possible. So.
And what will be the primary purpose in May when they come to the meeting?
I was hoping to show you the site plan, but I don't know that it'll be done. We'll see.
Okay.
Well, and we can just kind of stay in touch with them and see kind of what the lay of the land is. I don't, and I haven't heard from them recently, so we'll see kind of how things are kind of moving forward.
All right, any other questions about that right now? Good, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan.
And I kind of gave you guys, I don't know if I made it to the packet, I made a little calendar. Okay, that's okay. I made just a little bit of a kind of what we're well, so anyway, just kind of basically the time frame for this strategic management plan, which we got through council, which is awesome. So on Wednesday I started working on this with the consultant, and we have another meeting next Wednesday, and the time frame basically is going to be so we're putting together our formal plan next Wednesday. I already put together a kind of a preliminary plan, and the idea is that they're going to come to this meeting, meet with this group in June, July, and I think September or something, just to really get the nuts and bolts of the plan together. I would like to present the rough draft to council on that October 28th meeting, so we have some time, so we can get that to council, and then have some time to think about revisions and get that final draft by December. So we kind of have a little bit of a compressed time frame, but I think we've got big chunks that are already ready to go in terms of tree inventory, in terms of our ordinances, tree planting ordinance, tree preservation ordinance. We have a lot of things that are kind of set that we can kind of work with as they are. So I'm hoping we can really get a good kind of hit the ground running and get a good overall strategic plan for our forestry program here through this process. So I'm pretty hopeful with it, and I would just ask that this group, if you can really engage with it, and if you've got things that you want to see in there, really dig in, because this is the time. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like just really, engage with the consultants and tell them like, hey, we have this canopy goal. We really want to know how we know we're going to meet it by 2050. Like, we need the plan, guys. So, which we kind of have, but kind of not. So it's, I would just encourage everyone to really be as involved as you want to be, because that's going to make it all the better. And I'm hoping too to tag on to the forest management policy with this whole effort. So when we're doing all the outreach for our strategic urban forestry plan, we can also then include the forest management piece with it, because people are not going to see that as a different thing. So I'm hoping we can really dig in and get a lot done with this process. And I know that there was talk of redoing our urban forestry survey that was done in 2015, but I just kind of wonder, we've done so many surveys in the city in the last, I don't know.
What do you mean by survey?
So in 2015, they did what do you like the most about trees? Would you like to see the budget increase for?
Like a survey.
Yeah, questionnaire. So, and it was nice, and it gave us some good data. And so there was a thought of like redoing that, which I'm not necessarily against. I just kind of wonder, like we have thrown so many surveys at people.
There's been like the strategic plan, the referendum,
Sustainability work.
sustainability. There's been certain neighborhoods like the Greenfield neighborhood.
Right, and also South Stoner Prairie, I think.
Yep.
And then also we've been surveying people about playgrounds. So I'm just like, people might be a little surveyed out, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not like trying to rain on that parade, but I'm just trying to be realistic about what we can expect from people.
Yeah.
Because there's been quite a few.
Well, do you think that the 2015 data is 10 years old? Do you think it's still valid?
Well, I think it's I don't think that the people who answered that would answer differently, but we have a much different demographic now. In 2015, I don't know what the population was, but it wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And I guarantee most of those people who took that survey in 2015 probably did not live in a new development.
It would be interesting to see what the consultant's advice would be on that, because I would say some companies we've worked with that have done surveys have done a good job, and a lot have done a bad job.
This is true.
We've had some of the turnout that we got from some of them was so low that it was like, wow, you paid how much for this?
Right.
Which is hard. There's a lot of factors there, but it might be nice to engage them and at least just say, we've had problems in the past getting strong, consistent engagement. And also from an equity and access perspective, we want to make sure that we're offering it in Spanish, and that I think we've tried to do an offline mailer option, but I can't remember. Yeah,
we have.
So we'll just want to follow those same things, but it feels like a shame to your point, not try and do it and not try and get feedback.
Because we do have that baseline, right? And we can do almost the same kind of a thing. But anyway, so that's kind of the, we'll see. So that's one of the big questions we have to kind of figure out. But this is kind of a compressed time frame, so we do need to just, because the grant is for a year, so, and it's not particular, that's not like, I think if we come up with a pretty good product and we tell DNR, hey, we need an extension for 3 months, they're probably not gonna say no, but I'd like to try and meet their deadlines.
So can you describe the process a little bit? Is it the two of you sitting down, working things out, and then us, other people having the opportunity to give feedback, or possibly doing a survey as well?
Yeah, so what I'm hoping to do, so next week I'm meeting with the whole team. It's gonna be mostly myself and one other point person, but they do have a whole team that's gonna work on this. And so what I'm gonna find out from them for sure on Wednesday is what do they need from us? They're gonna need our tree inventory, they're gonna need probably our staffing chart, they're gonna need our budget, they're gonna need certain things like that. So I'm gonna make sure that I just have a real clear understanding of exactly what they need, and I will get it to them next week. And then what I wanna do is set up a time frame for the public engagement piece, which includes engaging this group. Well, engaging this group is not just the public engagement, it's also guiding the process. And so what I'm hoping is that by our May meeting, I have for you kind of a skeleton outline of like, this is exactly not exactly what we're gonna do, but this is what we're hoping to do. We're gonna, do these sorts of outreach efforts in these particular neighborhoods. Maybe it's a survey, maybe not. I'm not really sure exactly what that looks like. And then they bring it to this group, and then you guys give feedback and also participate. And then we keep moving forward. So it's like I call it a slow roll. I'm not sure if that's the right way to do it, or right way to term it, where you're like, you work on something, then you bring it to the committee for feedback, and it keeps on moving forward, but with your kind of influence. It's not like, so it's not like we're gonna come and be like, this is what we did, guys.
And they'll have,
it's not quite gonna be like that.
all the city documents, the open space plan and those kinds of things.
Yep.
The pieces of that are relevant.
Yep, and I've already given them quite a bit, the park and open space plan, and then also the comprehensive plan, but that's also getting redone, so which is fine, but, or that's up for renewal or.
It's where we we do our annual review.
Yeah, right. So at any rate, long story longer, this group, I think, from a process perspective, will be involved in like guiding what happens and also giving feedback on the plan itself, if that makes sense. So you'll be giving feedback on the process and also the plan. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well.
I think you are.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great, and I feel like think we're gonna get a lot out of it. I'm very excited for it. And now that the sustainability plan has been passed, that'll also be something that we kind of reference as well, which is good.
So I think our last meeting for the year is October.
It is.
So I'm wondering if we need to switch anything around.
We might need to.
So I think when we missed one, we assigned it to June, but maybe that one, if we're able to meet in May with the team, maybe we could switch the June one to November or December, whatever might make more sense.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. We can talk about that next meeting for sure.
Yes, because we have a pretty long time between meetings.
We do.
I mean, we got October and then we wind up in January.
Right.
That's all.
Well, and I'm just
Right.
thinking if the
Yeah.
goal is to try to get it to back to this committee or to council by, this committee by October and to council by
December.
then,
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah, that might be, yeah, we can definitely look at the calendar and figure that out by the next meeting. But that'll be one of the big things that this group is moving forward, which is awesome, and I really appreciate all your guidance with it and all your help getting it to this point, which is great.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is.
We talked about that very early on.
Yes. It's been on the topic for a long time.
Yeah.
And we just
Things are
haven't.
getting checked off the list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good. Yeah, it's great. So I appreciate everyone's input and moving things forward in a real positive, productive way.
Any other
Thank you for
questions?
getting the grant for it.
No.
Yeah,
It's very easy to bring up at city council on the dais to be like, and
Yeah,
it's grant funded and the 50% matches staff time.
right.
And
Yeah,
people are like, okay.
yeah.
So much easier to say yes to when it's.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I feel like it's a win-win. So
Absolutely.
Very exciting.
um,
All right, report from department.
Can I do a quick correction? I just want to correct myself. The common council meeting on the 22nd is still at it's 7:15 somehow. I think because we're taking our new group picture.
Oh.
So, but I don't know how long that's going to take. I think because it was already publicly posted, we weren't able to change the time to the new 6:30 time.
Okay.
So if you want to join for the proclamation, it's still at it's at a 7:15 local time.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
45 minutes.
Don't.
No.
You might be bored.
Not gonna be there.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
You'll join the finance committee, which is exhilarating, but probably not what you want to
I've
do.
zoomed in on finance trying to get to council before, which is kind of embarrassing. But
Yeah.
they're very nice, but they're kind of like, oh, hi, Ms. Forrester. Like, you're in the wrong spot. We're just gonna keep going though.
Yep.
Like, we'll just let you sort of listen in because we're nice. But it's like, okay. Anyway, what do you do?
Exactly.
And then you're afraid. I'm always afraid to get off because I'm like, maybe but it's fine. It's just zooming in. At any rate, long story longer, the report for department. One thing I did want to mention, but I didn't put it in writing because I'm a little nervous about it, but I think it'll be fine. So with this whole IRA money that, I don't know why I'm so anxious about it, but I just am. So I kind of knew this was going to happen. So it was supposed to be a 3-year project, right? But they're trying to get all the money spent before June. And so, which is fine. So we are doing Hugo Jamestown canopy renovation, which is awesome. We're doing Southdale that next weekend. That last week in April, we're doing Southdale, the whole neighborhood canopy renovation. Awesome. So I did also want to do over Post Road and Traceway around the hub. But I was like, well, we're not going to have the time to do that. But I did get a phone call like, oh, one of our tree plantings in a different neighborhood fell through. Do you have anything ready to go? And I was like, actually, we do.
Oh my gosh.
So I got together that whole Traceway thing. So in theory, that second week in May, we're gonna have Traceway planted on both sides of Traceway planted from Post Road all the way to Fish Hatchery. Not where the hub is, obviously, because that's under construction, but other than exactly the hub site, the rest of it's gonna get planted with that IRA money. So we'll get canopy there too, where we had 0. So that's kind of,
I think sooner is better.
yeah. So hopefully that's happening the second week in May. I got all that together this week, so.
Is all of that gonna need watering?
Yes, but that's part of the grant.
Okay.
So I don't know,
Do
so
we have the equipment to water that amount of.
It's a contractor that's doing it, so.
Oh, good.
So I don't, so I mean,
Good.
we're not paying for it, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, good.
What, not to doomsday, what happens if that funding?
Gets yanked.
Yeah.
Our neck isn't on the grass. See, I asked that question. I said to DNR, I said, so if you do not get, if something goes sideways here, just imagine, if something goes sideways, just
That's the common
Yeah.
indicators
you
as
know,
of late.
just, in case. So it's just like, would we be on the hook for any of this? And they said no. So I said, as I said, we cannot backfill the federal government. We do not have the
Who would
funds.
be on the hook? DNR?
Yes. Because they said they have a formal agreement with the feds for this project. So they're moving forward. And I think they've already gotten a tranche of money, so
I'm sure.
it makes me very nervous. But I'm like, okay. The trees are ordered. I'm like, okay.
Do you have that in writing by chance?
Yes, I do.
Great.
I
Great.
do. Because I was very nervous about it.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. to
I was just
get it.
like, to be clear. So,
I mean, we, myself and Alder Jetzer brought a resolution to City Council, not like that will make a huge difference, about the importance of federal funding and not having it yanked from our city. And we sent copies of it to our representatives, who I'm sure have read it with
That's really important.
keen focus. But I'm sure Tammy and Mark read it.
I'm sure they did.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure
I'm sure
Ron
they
read it. I'm sure all of them.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, so at any rate, I didn't put that in this report because I was just like, I don't know if I want to say anything about that. But anyway, it'll be fine. We're getting the trees, and yeah, so I think DNR just accelerated the tree planting, and then it's all hopefully gonna be in place. I don't know what else to say about it, but in theory, that's all happening. So we actually, at the end of the day, if everything goes well, by June, we'll have most of that project done that I didn't think we were gonna have anything done. Yeah,
Very
so,
exciting.
and it will be very impactful. It's way more than we could have ever done, so, by ourselves, so we'll see. It'll be, anyway, I don't wanna jinx it, but it's all, at this point, it's pretty much set, so, anyway, that's the long story longer with that. I don't know if there's anything really
And it sounds like, so you did an interview with FACTv?
Oh, yep, I
about
did.
Tree planting events?
Yep, I did. Yep, and all the stuff going on, and we did get. I hopefully I told you guys this. Maybe I forgot. We did get our Tree City of the World designation again. We got Tree City USA, and we got a Growth Award. Did I tell you guys that?
A what award?
A Growth Award from the Arbor Day Foundation. Did I not tell you that?
I don't think so.
Oh, jeez. Sorry. Yeah, so that was why I was on FACTv, and I forgot to even tell you guys. At any rate, long story longer, because of the work that all of you did, really, we got a Growth Award for updating of inventory and, what else did I write up for that? Updating of inventory and, what was our other factor? I think it was,
Best Tree Committee.
could be, yeah. It was, it was because we successfully wrote grants. That was it. So which you guys wrote letters of support for, so that's great. It was the Million Trees grant and the DNR grant. We got points for that because we wrote 2 successful grants in a year, which is awesome. We updated our tree inventory again, which isn't, we do that every year, but, we had other stuff on there too, just, we're canopy renovation and things of that nature, which I think we were already over the edge. But anyway, so we got a Growth Award again, which is great, so.
Could you follow up in an email with the names of the awards?
Yep,
I'd
I
love
can
to
do
bring
that.
those up at council.
Yes, I can do that.
Can you send a copy to everybody?
Yes.
Good,
Thank you.
very good. That's really exciting.
Yeah, from the National Arbor.
What was the tour with residents of McGaw Park?
Oh, yeah, so that was just, I went, so good question. So there's some residents who just wanted a little bit of insight on exactly what was growing where. And so I did a lot of plant and shrub ID and just talked a little bit about what is going on there from a successional standpoint. Like, okay, great, we've got honeysuckle coming in. And unfortunately, some of the trees that they cared most about have died since that tree survey was done in I think it was 13 or 14. So, and I was like, well, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of trees in here, and, they're gonna fall down or come down. And so they also just kind of wanted to know what we were planning to put in there. And so we kind of went over some of that stuff and some of the possibilities. And I talked about our CIP project for gravel bed and how the idea is that we can get bare root stuff, grow it there in the spring in the gravel bed, and the fall plant it out, and get, better establishment that way, faster establishment of trees and shrubs in that park among other places. So, and then they had, questions between hand clearing invasives and forestry mowing and kind of how that all works and blah, blah, blah. So we just kind of went over some mechanics of invasive removals and also just a lot of plant ID stuff, plant tree ID stuff. And also they were concerned about paths, and they're right. I mean, those paths get really muddy. They're really not passable, a lot of the year. And I said, well, we kind of do need to redo the path system there because the path system there is organized around that park course, which is not functional.
Right.
So, we kind of probably really do need to rethink all of that, but it's kind of difficult to do that because you can't even get in there really. So it's tough we have to kind of get in there and start wrestling with those invasives and getting some better stuff established and kind of moving forward. So, yeah, so that was that situation.
What was their general attitude? Were they supportive or were they antagonistic?
They weren't antagonistic, I would say. I mean, at least not to me outwardly. I was very suspicious, to be honest, but it was fine. I think, and I think they just legit wanted information.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, we wanted to know, like, hey, this thing is dying. What is it? I'm like, oh, unfortunately, it's a black cherry tree. This over here that's doing well, unfortunately, that's a bunch of blackthorn. But, so I think, it was actually not bad. I wasn't sure. I was super nervous about it, but it actually was fine.
So this was in a thicketed area?
We were mostly in area 2, the area between 1 and 2, where there's a lot of honeysuckle, a lot of buckthorn, but also there is some good stuff in there. So there's a whole mix.
That's kind of nice that you were in an area where you can show like this is the healthy growth, this is the unhealthy growth,
and way in there you can kind of see a pagoda dogwood is sort of trying. So yeah, it's like but at any rate, so it was interesting. And then you can see the trees that we did free up in area 1, like how well they're doing. That's great. So so that's always interesting. And then the chicory meadows thing is going crazy again, which is awesome. And we have a lot of dead ash trees, but not city. We've taken care of our dead ash trees for the most part. However, there's a lot of dead private ash trees, and there are a lot of people who call about them, which is fine. So, and we did get our birds done. I was not that happy with it, to be perfectly honest. I had them come back and redo, which I don't know who does that, but I did it. I called them and said, there really wasn't great interior combustion, and some of these burn units, and I wanted to say, I do walk in there. But anyway, so it's just there wasn't
the burn didn't burn enough?
Right, so they sent a head fire through, and then they burned the edge, and they completed that burn before the interior really had a chance to burn through. Mm-hmm. And so then it kind of just didn't burn as well. And I'm like, hey, so Magawa entrance was one and Carmel Wayside was another. I walked through these burn units. There really wasn't great interior combustion. They've burned awesome in the past. It's a very dry year. These things should be black. So I was like, can you come back? So they did.
Right.
So, because I was very nice, but I was just like, I think we were hoping for a little bit more black.
Yeah.
And
all the burn.
Right. And then they said there wasn't a lot of fuel. I'm like, well, actually, here's a photo. There's a lot of fuel here. So can you please come back and do this? So they did, which was nice. So anyway, that was kind of a long story longer with burning. And we've got, we have volunteers doing all kinds of stuff. I am hoping, we'll see what happens, but I did tell Scott, I'm like, it's hard to keep up with all of our volunteers. I do think it's time that we explore a volunteer coordinator position, because it's tough to kind of, and I did explain to a few people, I'm like, the way Dane County does it is they have a few people who facilitate the volunteer program. Just the paperwork involved, the releases, all of that stuff. They do all the recruitment, they get everyone in the right spots, they just do the facilitation, and then they also have all of their staff that meets with the volunteers that works with them in the field. And we don't really have any of that, and it's we would get so much, our volunteers would get more out of volunteering, and the city would get more out of that too, and we could do just a whole lot more if we had someone who could do all that. So
does the Parks Department have a volunteer coordinator?
No.
Does any department in the city have one?
Well, the senior center does, but I don't think
that ship is run tight.
Yeah.
It's organized over there.
Right. So So anyways,
I
we'll
know
see.
the park can really benefit. Like
Yeah,
Scott's
we
talked
have
about
so
that for a
many.
very long time.
Yeah, because at this point, it's like, we're just really, it's like, we can't really do everyone justice, and we can't like, because, volunteer, like, because if you're running a volunteer project, as you guys know, like, you're taking a big project, you're breaking it down to these little tasks that people can do, and then you're kind of trying to keep it moving along, and it's really hard for us to do all that. And we have some pretty self-sufficient volunteers, which is awesome, but that's a lot to ask, people just to be able to take on those big projects and run with it. So anyway, so that's something, I don't know, I have no idea if it's even possible for a future budget, but I do think that's something that we should really think about, and that's hopefully one of the things that comes out of our strategic management plan, that we just have too many people doing like too much stuff. We need to kind of.
You think that planning would cover that too?
I would hope so.
That would be
because
great.
Because right now I'm the one that does all the volunteer coordination, which isn't, to be honest, I don't really do it justice. And I think like I could do more forestry stuff if we had someone who could like be on top of the volunteer stuff.
And the volunteers are so important.
They
We couldn't
are.
do a lot of the projects without volunteers.
Well, it also builds a lot of advocacy for the parks, you know?
Sure.
And
Builds
it's
a lot of what?
advocacy, people have buy-in, and then the other thing is like all these grants want you to be working, like have volunteer input, which is awesome. And so we have, we do have that. It's just I think we could really do a lot more if we had someone who could like really, focus on moving it forward. So
That would be interesting to compare how many dollars of grants do we receive that require volunteers
it's a good question.
versus a salary of a volunteer coordinator
Yeah.
or a paid hourly internship of a volunteer coordinator, and be like, so we could pay this to continue to maintain winning X number of dollars in grants, or we could not, at risk of losing X number of dollars in grants.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because like just for example, Million Trees grant, 10 grand, they require the trees be planted by volunteers.
Right.
So so anyway, that's the long story longer with that. But so we'll see. That's just one suggestion I kind of have been throwing out there because it's going to be budget time here. And I don't know.
That's not in CIP, that would be operational, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because we asked about trees being in CIP last year, and they were like, no.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point. We did put in CIP, we did put the forest management stuff in CIP, so I don't know. I don't, it's kind of a fine line, and I'm not really sure how.
I think
Can you
because that's an
explain
investment, yeah, so.
To the committee a little bit, the difference between the two.
Yeah, normally CIP is capital improvement, right? So it's normally like a one-time investment. The idea is that it's like a fixed asset or something that can be amortized over time, right? So like computers and buildings and one-time projects, playground equipment, things like that, cars, fire trucks, all of that. And then operating expenditures are things that are recurring fees over and over, like the gas we put in the cars. 80% of that is salaries.
Yeah.
80% of our overall budget is salaries. Same with the school board when I was on there. 85% of the budget was salaries, teacher salaries, so.
And the interesting just kind of comment is, before I came here, I guess trees were part of CIP, but since
Yeah, we
I've been,
talked about that.
since I've been here, they've always been in operating. So I don't really know.
The trees one, I still like, while I heard the response, I like kind of fundamentally disagree.
Yeah.
I think
They're
the
an
tree maintenance
infrastructure.
should be an operational
Yes.
expense.
Yeah.
But I think the buying of the tree itself is an asset.
And it's an infrastructure,
Yeah.
essentially.
I don't know, I can bring it up again this year to be like, I don't know that I agree with that
Yeah.
statement, and just see.
How would it change things? How would it change things?
So sometimes when we get, for example, when we get one-time funding, we prefer to spend it on CIP activities because we're not promised recurring income, right? So we would never use a one-time grant or something to fund a headcount because I have to pay your salary every year. So if trees were in a one-time expenditure, we could say, well, we could spend that money on that. And that's the thing that's hard for me, right? Like, you buy this laptop and you pay for it once, right? And actually laptops might be a good one to look up because like this doesn't last forever. Neither does a building. There we have some trees that last longer than the buildings and last longer than laptops.
Right.
I might be on a hill that no one else will join me on,
Yeah.
but it's just like
And I truly just don't know. But I do know we did put together a CIP for neighborhood forestry improvements, and a lot of that is plant material, so I really don't know.
right. I think your plan is in there because it is a one-time expenditure that should last us 10 years,
Right.
right? Or whatever until we need another one.
Right.
So
Yeah, so like, for example, like, just to kind of make an example, like, the playground equipment is CIP, the mulch is operating. Like, that's kind of how sometimes we think about it. So,
I wonder if there's a year, but again, like a laptop lasts. Maybe the laptops are in operating expenses, and I'm just crazy. But
well, see, and I truly don't know. So,
I can bring it up again during CIP time. We're very close to it, so.
yeah. At any rate, yeah, so we'll see how that all shakes out. And the one thing that I will say that it does make somewhat of a difference with having trees in CIP is that our weather is so variable. There are some years that are much better than others for tree planting. So for example, the year that it didn't rain 3 years ago or whatever that was, we did spend all of our tree planting money because if we didn't, we can't really move it anywhere else.
That's a really great point. If you
So-
budget for it, it's like use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so and I did carry a little bit of that over, I think, but it was like, well, we've got this money now, I guess we'll just pray for rain, and we did plant a bunch of trees that year. They actually, most of them did okay, but that was one of those things where if it's in a CIP, you can be like, well, you know what, it's super dry, it's probably not gonna rain, not an awesome year to plant a whole bunch of trees. Whereas when you get a really awesome year, you can take advantage of that, or if you get a situation, for example, you've got, the year that we worked with Dane County and we got a lot of trees from them through their Dane County Canopy project, like then you can really take advantage of things like that if it's in CIP, because it isn't like, you have to spend this much this year, but you just have a little bit more flexibility, which trees lend themselves to, but I don't know. And I think that's why it was in CIP before, but it changed before I got here, which has been quite a while now, so I don't know if there's a memory of it even being in CIP.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, any additional announcements?
Yes,
Yay.
I wrote another article, and the guy from the Star said, well, I don't know if I can fit it in because I might have a lot of letters to the editor, so I'll put it online if I can't fit it in. I just wonder if he's getting sick of it.
Wait, what?
The Star.
No, when was it? Sorry.
I sent it to him last week, and it's supposed to be for the paper they're putting out next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say if it was around election time.
No, it
That's
was
very
after.
accurate.
And so, I don't know, I don't look at the Star online, does anybody? I don't, to me, that's like, same with, Phil Group B, I send it to him also.
Right.
Well, he's like, well, I don't know, I probably won't get it out till late May or early June, well, it's about spring.
Right.
So it's probably gonna be too late, but I'm really busy, blah, blah, blah. So it's just a bummer.
To disseminate internally?
Well, he puts out an
The green news
Oh.
blast.
online.
Does he do it every month? Do they not?
I think he does it every 2 months. I didn't
Oh.
really understand his schedule, so I just sent it to him when I sent
Usually
it.
they put something out about No Mow May,
Yeah.
He's talking about that. He talked about that, and he said maybe in conjunction with that, he could, I don't know him, I don't know his system, but it was disappointing,
Yeah.
that's all.
That was a
So,
very nice article too.
yeah,
Could
well,
we forward it to the entire RCC?
I'm sorry,
Could we forward it to all of RCC? Resource conservation,
could we, could he,
could
We
you
could-
forward your email? Or could one of us forward it for you to?
what, the article?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
to the RCC members.
Maybe.
Yeah, because maybe
Very
maybe
interested
Phil's
in that.
kind of, if someone on RCC is helping him with that, maybe they can help him put that in there, because to your point, it's a nice article and it will be done, will be irrelevant.
Well, does somebody
Yeah,
wanna do?
I'd be happy to do it if you send it to me.
I'll send it to you, okay. Yeah, I was kind of bummed, it was like, okay, never mind.
Because I thought there was a commitment. Yeah, I mean, and
Don't
there was-
get, Sue, do not get discouraged. That's all I have to say. Don't
trying.
get discouraged.
Yeah.
You gotta keep at it. Tenacity is the name of the game.
Boy, don't
Tenacity
we
is
all
it.
know?
Coming from a city employee.
Maybe I
So,
didn't know.
so don't, you know, it's like, even if you think they're saying, man, to be like, huh, I'm not gonna acknowledge that, I'm just gonna keep on going.
Okay.
Just keep on.
Tenacity, all right.
Tenacity is it.
My tenacity is getting shorter and shorter.
That's okay.
When somebody said something about 2050 before, I
Yeah,
forget
that's our
who's,
canopy goal.
I was
Yes.
like, I'm dead by then, so.
Perspective.
So, okay, but yeah, the guy at the paper, I don't know, he was real good at the beginning and now he's like, he's probably saying, oh Christ almighty, another article about trees.
You know, I'm just gonna say your articles are very nice, they're very well thought through, and you have a very nice voice, I think
Yeah.
people do appreciate it, and if there's, you know, a lot of input right now to the Fitchburg Star, which there very well might be, there's lots of things that people are writing about election-wise and otherwise. He- so he might just be having a lot of incoming, and you might just be seeing, you know, just the results of someone who has a lot of incoming. It's not necessarily
Not
that,
personal.
not at
But
all.
to your point, when they decide layout and he actually sees, he might not know until like the day before and be like, oh
yeah.
shoot, I do have room, I need to fill it. Let me
Yeah,
put this lovely
yeah.
article in here.
so, yeah, and I was going by the seasons, but maybe I'm thinking summer, maybe I should put the summer
Do
one
summer now.
out to him later, like leave more space.
Or just ask him, say like, you know, I would really like to, I really enjoy, you know, people really do get a lot out of these articles. We really are, you know, thank you for helping us disseminate this information. It's very important for the work that we're trying to do to get to our 50% or our 30% canopy goal. And, you know, is there a different time frame that would work better, or,
That's a great suggestion.
you know, just
And
kind
how
of,
much lead time maybe he needs?
Yep.
and just sort of,
Well, he told, I knew the deadline was for stuff was like Monday. So I got it to him last week. I should send it to all of you too. I sent it.
Yeah,
it's very
You saw
nice.
it.
Yep, it's very
I'll
nice.
do that, I'll do that.
Good.
Maybe he has like dead times too. He knows like in June, he's always scrambling for good
Yeah.
content for a certain one.
Yeah.
So he could be like, hey, send me your summer thing and we'll plan to get it in June, and fall, you know, October.
Well, we did we do fall? Maybe we did winter. I don't remember. That's a good idea. Yeah, because he was pretty, well, he's not nice.
Yeah.
But he was like, you know.
It's hard to anticipate why.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
leading up to the election, there would have been a lot of letters and stuff, but it's over. So we'll see what he does. Maybe I'll wait and see what he does. And then I'll get a hold of him and say, you know, I don't like to pressure you, and what about timing, and
Yeah. What works best
what's a
for
good,
Yeah,
I
it-
was
your
hoping,
cadence.
I was hoping to have like a regular series, and what would be good for you.
Great.
Yeah,
I am a
good
big
idea.
deal. I would like to be a guest writer.
I'm sorry, what?
You just write him, I'm a big deal. I need a guest writing spot, the end.
Okay,
Well, and just,
I'll do that, I'll
and
do
I
that.
think emphasize we appreciate the partnership and getting the word out.
Yeah.
You know, because we do. You know, and it really is a nice avenue to get the word out among others, you know.
And he did say early on that he was a tree person.
He is.
That's awesome.
So,
Yes. He
so if you're
actually-
really a tree person,
I think,
I have to be nice.
well, yeah,
It's okay.
I do think it's probably more
can't
just
be.
a,
What other
It'd be
things
nice
does
if
he
I
have
really
coming?
tried.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's probably more than
RCC tries to do
Right.
once a quarter. I'm sure there's other committees that try and do a certain cadence. So he might be like, okay, you need to talk to these committees. Could you all agree on a joint cadence?
and that would be fun.
And maybe that's what it is. We talk to RCC and we're like, we want to talk about trees this month, and this month throughout the year.
Oh, talk to them, us talk to,
Us, yeah, not just you.
Yeah,
But
but-
like if he comes back and says, I get conflicting times or
Right.
you're all asking me for the same thing, these 3 committees, could you all talk together
Yeah,
and
we could do
figure
that.
out a nice joint calendar?
And
That would
that's
be
fine.
kind of cool.
And we could do that.
Mhm.
That's no problem. So that's not on him to kind of pick and choose or
Exactly.
say yes or no. It's like, okay, this month it's X, next month it's
so
Y.
we're
then
talking
it's-
the Star.
So the Star comes out monthly, is that it's?
I
I think
does it
it's
come
every
out
2
twice?
weeks.
Twice a
I thought it
month?
was twice.
I thought it was twice, but I could be wrong.
I think it is twice.
Yeah, because I think there's an RCC article. Is it every other month? Is it?
Okay.
Who? What?
I think there might be. It doesn't, I think they, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
I don't know either.
I want to say the wrong thing, and I don't know.
But those are all good questions. So when I get it, I'm going to send it to the RCC with a note.
No, you're right,
to all
it's
the members
monthly.
and to Phil.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
the second Friday
Yeah.
of
No,
every
not
month.
Phil.
I think the
He's got
Verona
it.
Press
Right.
this week.
Well, I know.
That could be.
He's got it.
I think that's what it is.
And I'll send it to you guys.
It's monthly,
Okay,
second Friday.
sounds good.
So,
Good, it's a plan.
and thank you for doing that, Sue.
Yes.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you very much. I think that's
As
really
you can see,
great.
I might be easily discouraged, so.
Well,
If you get rid of her, I'll just tell her I have too many letters to the editor.
I doubt
No.
that's the case. I really doubt.
I agree.
So,
That's it.
I'm just too sensitive.
well, I can understand that. So,
Mhm.
at any rate,
All right,
Okay,
anything else?
You were gonna invite Steve Arnold
yes,
to come to this meeting,
in May.
But that's gonna be
To
the next
May.
one when hopefully
not for
the,
this one,
No.
for me.
Right. So,
can't come
but my
till May.
question to this group is, do we want to still do that if they don't have the site plan, or do we want them to come with the site plan? You tell me, and you don't have to tell me now.
I would think the site plan would be.
I would, unless we disrupt the formal process, I mean, unless that's disruptive to the formal process. I guess the whole thing was whether or not they had any questions about, the concerns or the recommendations, but we were meeting with them, so.
Well, we'll just leave that loose
And,
for now, I guess.
I mean, I assume, I shouldn't assume anything. Is the formal process that they would submit the site plan to the common council?
Council would have to vote on it, whether
Right.
it comes, it will have to come to
Right.
parks, it would have to come.
And then it would, but it
Plan
comes to the
maybe?
common council, and then it would go to the parks and to us.
No, other way around. So, well,
For final vote comes to you.
yes,
But
yes.
initially it's given to the,
I think so, or sometimes we do referrals
what is that
to
meeting called? When you just talk about everything?
committee of the whole.
Yeah, committee of the whole.
Yeah,
Isn't that the proper
sometimes-
way to go about it?
Sometimes we do it, sometimes they get referred directly to commissions because they know, for example,
Okay.
everything planning and zoning
Yeah.
has to go to plan commission first, most of it.
Mhm.
And then it comes to us.
Okay, so it doesn't always go to the council of the whole first.
Committee of the whole.
Committee,
No.
If I could just make a comment, this is the first kind of project like this that we've done, where someone's proposing like basically a capital improvement paid for privately on city-owned property.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So it's kind of, so I think that's why the process has been a little bit, not
So-
as straightforward as something else, because we've never really done this before, so there really wasn't, as far as I know, a specific process
So-
laid out, and we're kind of figuring it out as we go,
But
is my
my
kind of thought
knee-jerk reaction is the more formal the better.
yeah.
It would make a lot of sense to me if it went to the council, what is it, committee of the whole first, and then as a resolution, and then came to all the.
Well, so normally at committee of the whole, we just talk and we don't necessarily
Okay.
No
always
voting.
talk about resolutions. And we talk about we look at the GIS maps. We
Alright.
talked about stormwater last time. So
So then who decides what committees it goes to?
it's a great question.
Well, whoever sponsors the resolution usually.
Usually.
And-
And then,
but
and
this is
then
a private
council,
person.
council does see all of the referrals to committees. So on our standing agenda, it'll say these things are being referred out. And so we vote on them. And if there's something in there that we're like, this is about trees and the tree advisory committee's not on here, we will
Okay.
pull it out and say this needs to go to tree as
Oh,
well.
okay, all right. So would you write it then, or would Scott write it?
I don't know
If the
because
committee writes the resolution.
It's a great question.
I don't know.
Maybe that's something to bring to the next tree meeting.
To me, that's kind of an administrative question.
It feels like it is, it's an attorney question or, I don't know, mayor question, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think all that's getting worked out. I think. I truly don't know.
Because it feels pretty convoluted and I don't wanna be part of that, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I can understand why you'd say that.
Well, so there,
I think I really recommended that we keep it on the agenda for today because we had discussed it a bit last
Yeah.
week and last month and we didn't have it on the agenda. It came
Right.
up under
right.
the report. Right. So this is a little out of agenda discussing it now, but I hope that's all right.
That's okay, it's been publicly noticed as an agenda item.
Right.
So, you know, and maybe that's something I can do, is just do a little legwork of like, hey, where are we at in the process? And by the way, what is the process?
Yeah,
I
there
think
should
that's-
be a,
that's-
there
yes.
should be a process. And maybe this is triggering us or somebody to,
Because normally for like a resolution, you have alders, sponsors.
Right.
And they work with staff to do all the actual work. And then it comes to.
Well, so if they want to come and propose something that they would like somebody on this committee to sponsor, then that would make sense. But then
Okay, see you guys later.
I would think having a
Nice to
site
see you.
map
Welcome
would
back.
make sense.
Lovely to see you.
Bye-bye, thanks.
I have to look back at my notes too. I think this came to council once in a concept.
It did, and
I was traveling, so I was in an airport.
yeah. Well, it did. I think kind of part of your confusion is the resolution that went to council and then what got passed were different because they brought a different resolution, and I was gonna look, and so I'm not even really sure what actually did get passed, but I think anyway. So I think that's part of the confusion. So I don't know.
All right, so if we put it on our agenda next time,
Maybe
to
it's-
look at what the process
Yes.
is, we can invite them as, still keep the invitation for them to add to it if they want, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
I mean,
they,
Mhm.
and we can look at the site plan, but it seems to me like well, who knows, yeah, if they had it, that would be great.
Yeah. Oh, I don't see kind of where they're at with it.
As long as all the trees are on it, I mean, that's my opinion, but, well, it doesn't matter. So whatever it is, and that would be my feedback,
Okay. Awesome.
if they're not all on there.
Okay.
And to try to formalize things
Mhm.
at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's probably in the works. It's just a matter of, this is kind of a different kind of a project, and
Right.
and I think there was some different understandings of what could actually happen, because I don't know that it was really known, all the infrastructure that's there.
Well,
Right,
it's-
and that was my other question when we've talked about it, in between meetings, is that, what other departments need to be involved in, need to give feedback on this project, given the infrastructure
Yeah,
involved.
Sure.
and it's kind of important infrastructure, so.
Yeah, asking about the process and saying, hey, they didn't ask me what this process was, and I didn't actually know. I need to tell them.
I can do
It's a
that.
great impetus.
So you're gonna take that bull by the horns?
Well,
Is
be
there
nice.
something you want me to do? I mean,
I'll just ask and just be like, hey, just curious, have we established the process for these kinds of projects? And if so, if not, where are we at in the process of A, this project, and B, establishing how these projects move forward?
Yes.
is this an
Yes.
Adam conversation you're talking about, or a Scott?
Well, I'll start with Scott
Right, okay.
and just kind of see where, and to be honest, I am curious a little bit myself, but also it's just I think it's a learning experience for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, and in order for them to know if they have enough money to invest in it initially. I mean, I don't know how that works if infrastructure and moving things
Well, that's the
is
question.
involved. Does the city pay for that then, or are they paying for that?
Well, see,
I mean, I would think that everything needs to be laid out. I mean, there needs
I mean,
to be
the city is not in a position right now to pay for
Yeah.
a private,
And they
even though
would-
we would love to.
right.
I don't know who wouldn't love that.
Right.
The city is not in a position. Earlier this week, we were just told by constituents, you have a spending problem. I'm not gonna come over here and say, let's spend a bunch of money to rip up infrastructure.
Well, and also, and the one thing that I try to be very diplomatic about was just to say like, hey, maintenance is an issue across the board in the city.
Right.
And when we take a project on, the initial cost of it is an issue, but the maintenance is what
That's
ends
right.
up, and it might not seem like much, but like maintaining this little thing, and then this little thing, and then this little, it really does across the board add up. And we are at a point now, and I try to be very nice, is that we haven't gotten more people, even though we've gotten more parks, more parkland, more paths, we haven't gotten more people, and we really are at capacity. I mean, we truly are at capacity, and I don't think that we can continue to ask really anyone to keep doing more, because they can't.
No, the referendum failed, which means we are not
Yeah.
getting additional staff,
Right.
which means we cannot take on additional staff hours, period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's just that simple, and it's interesting,
the
because
voters told us.
and I did tell them, I said, and realize when people come here and if there's an issue, they will call me, they will call Scott, they will call
Of
administration.
course they will.
And then when the response was, well, just tell us people to get a life. I'm like, see, we can't really.
What was the
That's-
response?
Well, tell them to get a life. I'm like, see, that's not the way this works.
Also, would you want someone to respond to you when you call?
Exactly. So I was just like, so we have to just, and I was like, so we have to, excuse me? Yeah, so it's like when we come, because I was trying to be like, hey, it's not that we're trying to like, because I try to be very diplomatic, like, we're not trying to rain on your parade, we're not trying to like,
No.
attack your project, because I think that sometimes that's how it's interpreted at all. Like, it's just, we have to be practical and move forward in a very practical, doable way for the long run, not just for this second, this year, next year, the next year.
It's just
For the
fiscally
long run.
irresponsible to not
So,
plan for that.
so it seems to me that, I know we extended the invitation, I may come anyway, because my guess is it will be on our agenda next time, if they
Yeah.
want to come and speak to it, so maybe it can be optional.
Okay.
I think, and then we'll find out what the legal procedure is, or the best policy is about moving forward with whatever they come up with, as a request for the city.
Well, I think that's something the administration would tell us. You know what I mean? Like, is that what you meant? Or-
That, you mean our next meeting together, that's what it.
Well, I'll try to get that answer.
Right, so, yeah, I guess, do we take the lead in that?
No, I think it's city staff
Yeah.
needs to tell
Right.
us the
Right,
process.
right, exactly, right.
Right, but I mean, this committee,
I think on
I
it.
think so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll just ask the question and we'll see kind of how it all shakes out.
Okay.
Even,
Sounds good.
even, I was talking to Sue Easter Day, just broader than this particular project, all these little benches get put up, and benches are okay, but then they put up a bench by one of the ponds and they tore down a bunch of,
And I don't know.
did
who
you see that?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I
Down what?
A bunch of, well, so that the
Yeah,
tree,
like,
the bench is over a pond, looking at the pond in McKee. And they just mowed down all this vegetation that was in front of the bench so you could see the pond. And the vegetation was pretty junky, in my opinion, but still, it
I
was,
didn't think it was.
it
I mean,
was
it blossoms
vegetation
in
and
the
it-
fall and it's covered
yeah,
with bees.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's all,
Yeah.
and then along the path in McKee, somebody planted a tree in honor of somebody, and it looks like a grave. There's a little plaque, and it's like, and I was just thinking there should be some rules about how this gets done and who gets to do it and what,
So each one
these are
added
things-
together doesn't
so-
add up to something that looks
It's
good.
just a conglomeration, yeah.
Okay, see, what you're talking about is a one-off, like, oh, this person calls and we say, sure, do that one-off thing.
Exactly, and that's what Steve
So-
Arnold is doing, another one-off, only a big one.
Fair enough.
What?
So these are things that we need to bring up with the strategic forest management plan, because we do not have a memorial tree program. For example, And other communities, if you want to plant a memorial tree, you fill out a little form online that says, my whomever died, I would like to memorialize them with a tree, and then you select. You have drop-down menus of tree, shrub, whatever. Tree costs this much, shrub costs this much, prairie plants cost this much. You select what you want. It's just a little bit more formal, and what happens is the municipality or whoever, county, whoever it is, then they choose, okay, we need a tree in this pot or this pot or whatever. So it's a little bit more organized, and it adds up, to your point, it adds up to something instead of like the shooting from the hip. The shooting from the hip, kabam, bench,
So I know
kabam,
that's true
tree,
in
like it's
in
just.
Madison, you cannot say, I want to buy a tree for an individual and I'd like it to go in this park.
Right.
I mean, if they decide there's a need, yes. If they decide the tree you want is what fits in the park and also serves a need, then that will happen. But you donate the money and you trust the city to do whatever it is all the professionals on staff feel is important.
So we don't end up with, like, well, and there's been times where like I've planted trees and done a design or whatever, and then all of a sudden a little tree shows up. I'm like, interesting. Sometimes I just move them because I'm like, because they're gonna be in the way in the future. Like it's like people don't understand the bigger picture. Like so I planted some redwoods in a park, 3 of them that are gonna get huge in theory if they survive, which I think they will. And then someone like put a mungo pine in there, and I'm like, no, this is not. To your point, it doesn't add up to anything. It looks a little weird. If you know what you're looking at, you're like, who in the heck did that? Yeah. But someone well-intentioned was like, my dog died, I'm planting this here for them. You know what I mean? Like it's just, so it just needs a little bit more of a formal process, which we do not have, and these are the kinds of things I think we need to throw into that strategic management plan. Develop a memorial tree program.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yes, all those sorts of things. And again, part of that is just
benches, where to put benches and what,
exactly.
places where you know
And that
you
would
need
be
a
the
bench.
parks, probably the parks
I was
commission.
about to say,
And then but what trees are planted and where? That seems like, that would be our city forester. And then the whole piece of the naturalist piece, if they take out a portion of our protective vegetation around the retention pond, I don't know if that's something that you would do as a naturalist, or if that is like, is it public works or water?
Who decided to cut that all down?
So I don't know who did that, and I haven't dug into it yet, and I've been asked to look into it, so I need to do that. But I just haven't. I need a lot of stuff from Public Works right now, so I haven't asked them.
Yeah.
So I haven't I've just been very, very nice and been like, hey, just wondering, could you dig holes for Arbor Day? Hey, could you please help me pick up trees? Like I've just been very nice and very much because I'm constantly pinging them for stuff. could you please mow this park? Could you please, so I haven't really been, I haven't wanted to bring anything up that's not positive because I don't want to.
And the memorial is really a huge investment, and so that really highlights some of these other things that have come up that are smaller, but the lack of a formal procedure, which I think would benefit everyone.
And we do have a need, I think, to formalize things and be like, okay, great, if you want to memorialize a loved one, pet, person, whoever it is, this is how we do it here.
We love trees too.
Yeah.
What a great way to help.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's completely doable.
So
It's just a matter of
plunk something. Yeah.
Right. The plunking drives that up.
And I think it will streamline the process for the person who's donating and who wants to do it.
For sure.
Because I feel like otherwise you get a lot of side discussions and still don't have that formal
For
process.
example, we had someone who gave us a bunch of money to plant some trees, and where they wanted the trees was not city property. And I'm like, well, I cannot.
Was not what?
It was not city property. I'm like, we don't own that. That's actually DNR property. I cannot do that. And then someone's like, well, do you think DNR would notice? I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. That's not the point. They may or may not notice. It's not legal. Exactly. I'm like, we are illegal. It's just it doesn't matter who notices what. We're not going to go on DNR property.
We're not going to commit a crime on city time.
No, we're just not going to do this. So I came up with it. I said, how about the park that the city owns that's down the road from this particular spot? There's plenty of planting spaces there. I'm happy to meet you. We could talk about the whatever. And they ended up taking their money back, so I guess they decided not to do it, which is fine. But that's just an example of someone being
was it a nice place that looked like it was city, or that it was?
Well, it was special to this situation. So that's why they wanted it there, and I'm like, if this is place dependent, then you need to talk to DNR.
All right.
So anyway, that's
All
the long
right,
story,
so
even
we
longer.
have a plan about the memorial, and then if you need, extra, if you want anybody to help,
Okay,
with communications, I'm happy to do that.
okay. All right, well,
Do we have to adjourn?
yes,
Did we?
Yes, I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, this meeting's adjourned at 5:18.
Wow,
Thank
it
you
went-
very much.
It went past 5. Wow.
Yeah, I know.